Hey, welcome to another edition of Kicks Over Coffee. I'm your host, Matt Priest, and I'm drinking a K-Cup, a Keurig. It's okay. It's we're busy people, and sometimes you just got to pop in the K-Cup and go. You can't do the pour over or the French press. I'll get to that maybe another time. But today I'm super excited because I have the co-founders of findmeashoe.com, Anand, Ganesan, and Shabari, Raje, and I want to welcome you both to the program as we talk about findmeashoe.com, how you got your start, and the ways in which you are working with a global marketplace with your company. So, Anand, we'll start with you. Talk to me more about, well, first and foremost, let's make sure everyone's drinking coffee. So why don't you describe the type of coffee you're drinking? This is a global program, so you're not here in the US, so you might be drinking even something more interesting than I am. So welcome to the program and tell me what you're drinking.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having us. I'm drinking a Darjeeling tea. It's a very interesting flavor, and it's from a certain specific estate. It's a pretty damn good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's wonderful to speak to you about our journey and our products and technology today.
Sure. No, it's our pleasure. Shabari, what are you drinking?
I'm having a single origin Chikmagalur South Indian coffee. So it's a very specific region in South India that grows beautiful coffee. So totally enjoying my brew today.
That's good. That's good. And it's evening there. So it means you're on a long night. You got a lot of work ahead of you. So
right.
Let's talk about findmeashoe.com. What's the genesis? How did we, on our podcast, Shoe and Show, we talk about what's your shoe story is a question we asked. So talk to the audience about how findmeashoe.com came to be.
Yeah, probably I'll take that question. So Matt, it was more of a personal problem. We had issues with fit with apparels. So we thought, actually, I was thinking this is a serious problem. We should, try to build by the way, quick background. I come from a technology world. I used to build chips. I was with Intel before jumping into this project. So we wanted to bring that kind of an engineering rigor into this fit issue. And that's when we went to the market, and Shabari, she will introduce herself. We tried to do the research, and we found out apparel is not that big a deal because you can wear half size here and there, and you can still get away with it. Whereas footwear, it's a functional problem. It's going to hurt your foot, or the heel is going to slip. So people said, I'll pay you premium if you solve this problem instead of apparel. So we said, and we looked around the world for any specific technology so that we can adapt instead of inventing. We couldn't find. This was around 2014-15 timeframe. So we said, why don't we build it from scratch? Maybe Shabari has her own view on this. Shabari?
Absolutely. So like Anand mentioned, right, he had problem with apparel. I actually had problem with a lot of footwear. I could never find what fits me perfectly. And there's a lot of understanding regarding, hey, you're climbing a mount, you're going on a 5-day hike, or you're running only a short marathon. What do you need to buy? What do you need to really pick for yourself? How do you accommodate when your foot expands? And those are tough questions. And it was around that time that I climbed Kilimanjaro in Africa, and I came down with no toenails because I'd picked a shoe that is one size too small. And no one told me this. When you descend is when it's the toughest on you,
No toenails. My goodness, that is a personal problem that needs a solution. I'll say that much.
Exactly. And then you realize that the entire knowledge base of this entire system it's there, but it's scattered and it's not personalized to you, right? Especially, in the US you get wider shoes, in the Europe you get certain kinds, but in India there's a lot of mess about different sizing systems, and that's when this entire process started. And Anand and me said, that's the time around we met, and we said, maybe it's just us, we're the weirdos. But then we started with a small experiment. We put out a hardware scanner in a mall, and we said, let's see if other people relate to this. It was insane. People just stopped by And everyone said, yeah, I never understand between brands. I never know what I need to buy for what kind of activity I'm doing. And that's how this entire genesis sort of came about. And just to backtrack a little, I come from a consumer research background and a design background. So for me, anything that I feel is, oh, let's do a small test, let's dip it out here, and we iterate. And that's how this entire sort of find me a shoe gave birth to, on it. So
yeah, well, what a story, hiking Kilimanjaro. That's quite impressive. Now, Anand, let me ask you this, and both of you come from the outside of the industry, and what we often find in our industry is the outside critical thinker comes in and wants to solve a problem, personal problem in this regard. What has surprised you as you've entered into an industry like footwear that is global, that is performance-based? You talked about there's huge differences between apparel and footwear, and we talk about it all the time because they're always lumped together, and they're quite different from a performance perspective. So talk to me about the surprises you ran into coming into the industry and learning more about the industry and the needs that we have.
Actually, that's a very good question. Nobody really asked us. So far, we might have spoken to so many media outlets. When we jumped into the industry as an outsider, we thought, I'm coming from engineering background. So the expectation was, everything would be, there would be a literature to, follow, or somebody would have researched it around fit. Right, somebody would have built a scientific literature which we can go through and start building a solution around it. So we went around. Actually, in India there is a very good institute specifically for footwear design and development. It's recognized by government of India as a premier institution. So we went around asking, can you explain me how do we fit? If I have to write a computer algorithm which will replace the shoe fitter and do this, and we couldn't figure out, because most of the designers and technicians, they have their own perspective on every style, every design, every it's thought to be very artistic in nature. So we wanted to convert that into a science, and we had to literally build from scratch. We had some co-travelers in Europe. Some of them were building. Everybody was facing the same issue, so we could exchange notes. But that was a big surprise come challenge, which we thought added to our advantage. When you solve this from scratch, you understand right now what we understand. Fitting a footwear. It's very deep and very wide. We have seen. Personally, we might have fit shoes for thousands of people. So that was a surprise, but I would say that built our foundation, how we started this business.
Yeah. What about you, Shabari? What's been a big surprise for you? And then maybe, and I'm just reading into this as the non-engineer, but more the consumer focus, maybe you can explain in layman's terms how Find Me a Shoe works in the virtual world, if that makes sense.
Right. So, Anand explained to you the problem that we face with footwear. And similarly, when we spoke with consumers, people would have these fixed ideas in their head about, hey, I'm roughly an 8 and I think I know. That's a statement that's very vague. And I remember in our starting days, for my foot, which I assure you is a normal foot, for a particular brand, depending on the model, I can vary between 4 sizes, and you don't get half sizes in India. So 4 full sizes, right? If I'm wearing, say, a ballerina, which needs to be really snug fit for me, whereas if I'm wearing a peep toe with a heel, my foot is going to slide out a bit and it's going to accommodate that heel, and I would have to jump sizes. And this was a big learning for us, that consumers sort of forget that, oh, I'm roughly a size 8 and I'm kind of going to buy this. But it's all right when you're buying in a store. Because you're still going to try. But the big aha happens is when you're on an online site and you have this one number to pick, and it's roughly 8 for all brands, all models, and oh no, I returned 3/4 of my shoes. That kind of follows. Mm-hmm. Or I bought them and they're sitting in my cupboard and I don't really know what to do with them. And this was I mean, we kind of expected this, but the depth of the problem that we found, and that's kind of been reflected by the online returns or the fact that people still prefer purchases in stores, or some of the newer brands who don't have a physical presence, right? They struggle to make the numbers initially till people know your brand. And then you think, hey, I know the fit of this brand, which is, again, very intangible, but what we did the best. So maybe I'll segue into how we work with this problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we said is, okay, you know what? The first thing, we need to measure you. Because unlike, people have this perception again that I'm 8 and I've been in the 8 for the last 5 years. That's not true. Maybe you put on weight, you've gone through lifestyle changes, and you could have your foot, I mean, practically goes through a half size up and down in within a day, depending what time you measure it, right? So if it's at the end of the day, which is the right time you measure. So let's say, we said, let's get the first part. We need to get people to measure their feet. So that's where this entire journey, and we said, scanners are one great way, but for an online setting, people need to do it in their homes.
Right.
And that's where our flagship product, which is what we call as it's not even app-based, it's just a browser link. You can open that up, take a single picture of your foot with a letter paper and a wall. That's all you need. And based on that, we can capture your measurements well beyond the length, the shape of your foot. So
that's
the product has been up and running, and we have retailers who are using and utilizing it well, and we've seen some great impact on it. So that's one of the key inputs. The other part of the solution, which becomes equally important, which is what Anand, where we need to understand a brand's grading, their sizes, how they're running, or in a nutshell, the inner cavity. So now I know your foot and I know the shoe that you're trying to buy. And then we can tell you, hey, Matt, for this particular model, you need to buy size 10 and a half. But when you go for another model, it's going to bump up to an 11. This one's got a completely different fit. And this sort of personalized recommendation is what we pride ourselves in, to what Anand spoke about, doing fitting algorithms, where we can predict that and give you a recommendation that's extremely super specific, is what Find Me a Shoe, promises to deliver for every user that it
works. That's great. Now, Anand, was there determination, not having an app, browser-based seems super efficient, direct consumer, no extra step to download something to a smart device. Was that a intentional strategy when you launched findmeashoe.com, just to go straight to the browser?
No, we learned it a hard way. I mean, initially we rolled out a mobile app. We took 3 pictures and we pretty much modeled the foot, and there was a lot of work, and we went to the market. Brands were very happy with all the internal trial runs, and so we asked them, okay, why don't we go to the market? Then everybody was dragging their feet. I'm not sure people are going to use this. That's when we realized there were 2 things we completely went back to the drawing board. And this happened in 2018. Then we started building from scratch a browser-based solution and only 1 picture. And what we also realized is, 1 picture is more than good enough, because girth, it's always a concern. That's the reason we had a second and third picture. But what we statistically found out after collecting tens of thousands of foot profiles, girth is width of the foot at different points is a very good proxy for the girth. You don't need to measure the girth. So what we do currently is we have built a machine learning algorithm. From the width, I can estimate your girth. So for 95 to 98%, we are pretty confident we can, cover the fitting solution. So that's very important. So we call our solution as a 2.5D scanning. It's not a 3D scanning. It's not a 2D scanning. It's somewhere in the middle, because we do a machine learning estimation for the third dimension. In technical world, we used to call it as a 2.5D. And it's as simple as a smartphone browser click, and you can do it at home. And we'll talk about it probably. We are also launching a store solution. The same solution is going into the stores. Unlike other scanners, it doesn't cost you. I mean, you can just buy the prop. We sell the prop, and you can keep it. You can subscribe. Anybody can scan.
That's amazing. It's amazing what you learn. You go in with assumptions, right? And
correct.
You think you need a lot more data, particularly in this environment. Everyone needs data. And all your algorithm needed was one picture to determine the girth, and less is more in this environment, particularly when you're trying to get consumers to engage with it, because you got to have it. The barriers of entry and engagement have to be so low to capture their attention and make them willing to do it. How long did it take you to figure out, and maybe Shabari, you have the answer to this, how long did it take you to figure out from a consumer perspective what the consumer is willing to do and what they were not willing to do?
So I would say 8 pilots later, in a way of, we were talking to 8 different brands, like Anand mentioned. Everybody was excited. Each of these brands thankfully, they ran the pilots for us. But, at the end of it, I think we had the data point across about 100 consumers odd, which kind of said, but that is enough. It's not going to change. It was very deterministic, saying that 3 pictures. And mainly what happens is when you have to download an app, a brand can't customize it, or it's expensive. There are a lot of barriers, right? Now what happens, the link is embedded on somebody's site. They go in, come out, extremely seamless. You won't even know. And one picture is a sweet spot with the consumer. Right? No bending, no awkward angles, which we had. And we've seen like kids do it like super fast, even like anybody else. It took us probably one sales cycle of learning to go back and sort of go back into the market.
Yeah. And I suspect it'd be really interesting to peruse the thousands of pictures of feet that you've received. It's not the most appealing of videos or photos to review, but it serves a purpose because it's providing the data that's needed to get that fit right. And the problem is you're not preaching to the choir with me, because I wear 12 all the time, no matter what, no matter the shoe. And so it's not a problem I have, but I do have 3 daughters, and bouncing around all the different types of shoes they wear has been a challenge because of that very problem on the fit side. And again, not apparel. Performance is key, whether you're hiking Kilimanjaro or you're riding the subway into work or you're heading to brunch. You need to have footwear that performs and feels good and doesn't rub your feet and create all the challenges that we've seen with that. So this seems like a really kind of almost too good to be true, seamless solution to help companies better engage with their consumers on fit in particular. So I guess the last question I have for you is what's the best way to go about getting engaged if folks watch this and say, hey, I need findmeashoe.com to come help me out on fit. What's the best way to do that?
So, Matt, I just wanted to give a parting remark. In this business, right, what we have learned, it's all about the trade-off between ease of use and accuracy, right? So, when we started as a purist on one side, like close to 3D scanning. Then we slowly moved towards the ease of use. I think if you go further away from where we are, footwear is notorious. People would start again returning back. I think after a few years of iterations, I think we have landed on the right spot. If any of the brands or the retailers who's watching it, they can write to me. My name is Anand, AND, at findmeashoe.com. Right. So we will probably, when you post it, we will also post our, contact information so that they can reach us. Yeah.
That makes sense. So Shabari, I'll give you the last word. Anything that you would like to impart on our viewers before we close out this Kicks Over Coffee?
Absolutely. So I think the world has come, fairly a long way. Maybe 15 years ago, we bought everything without ratings and reviews, right? But today, I think where fit, especially where it kind of, like you said, like a very functional, the way it affects your health. getting it right is superbly important. I think the time to move from a size scale, which was like 200 years old, to making a decision on something that's very, very critical, the time to adopt something more modern is very, very much now. I think all the components of it have come together. You can do it at the comfort of your home. We're rolling out a solution where even if you go to a store, you could do the same process inside a store, and then all the inventory becomes available to you. So that becomes like an added benefit. And I think it's absolutely the right time from a consumer and retailer and an industry perspective to sort of move towards this new way of looking at fit, right? We've had it here for a while. And our goal, sort of our vision is like when you walk into a high-end store, the guy measures you and offers you this personalized recommendation. And today, we think with our technology, every single person can avail that same benefit of having a personalized fit. And we'd really love to see people take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you both enough for coming on and sharing the findmeashoe.com story. Whether it's hiking Kilimanjaro or it's coming in as an engineer and deciding what a good solution is for our industry, we welcome that. We're a familial industry, but we welcome folks coming in from the outside and providing fresh and new ideas and moving from that purist to the pragmatist, which is really, really critical. I think that's right in the middle where you want to be, and it sounds like you guys have nailed it.
Absolutely.
So congratulations and thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Folks, this has been another edition of Kicks Over Coffee. Go to kicksovercoffee.com. You can watch all of our interviews as we sip on coffee or tea or whatever your beverage of choice is, and talk about the shoe industry and all that's happening within the global footwear industry all around the world. And so until next time, have a great rest of your day. And this has been Kicks Over Coffee.